Hi, thank you everybody for joining us on Quantum Healing today. My name is Melanie, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Asha Love, and she is a metaphysician. And today we are going to be talking about shifting old patterns and how we can transition from our old living behaviors into this next new paradigm of how we grow and expand into this new earth. And so I know that we are going through a huge transition right now as a collective and individuals. So let me introduce to you Asha Love. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. So let's talk about how you got started. And so let's talk about your journey and everything that has brought you to where you are now.
You bet. So, well, I was born in the mid 70s, pretty conventional upbringing, albeit being born overseas to American parents for like the first 3 years of my life. I was out of the country and I was in the Middle East. And then, did the academics, the sports, growing up, conventional, small American town, and went to college and got married, had a baby, and there, 32, 33, what I joke is my adult onset awakening began. And it began with the news that my father was ill with cancer, but I received, just me, a little transmission that kind of came from some other dimension, that he would not be staying, even though it looked good, like he was going to beat the cancer and all that stuff, that parlance. And sure enough, he did. He transitioned about 6 months later, and I had a whole shared NDE, near-death experience with him, where I saw his childhood friend who had died 6 months before show up in the hospital room and just kind of help my dad on his way out. And then he started appearing to me after that, and then it kind of turned into other beings starting to appear and becoming aware of my own spirit guides, and then them prompting me to put out a shingle to be a spirit medium, which, I'll be honest, made me want to hyperventilate. But I did it, despite my resistance and reluctance, very under the radar, very anonymously. But what I found is that the messages were extremely healing for people. And so I kind of had this moment where I realized, why would I sit on this gift and ability if it could help people this much? And, fast forward to today, that was back in 2011, 12. Now things like Long Island Medium and other spirit mediums are well known. I was just watching the Seatbelt Psychic. He's really good. He's really fun to watch. And you see this kind of deep healing that happens for people. That's what it's really about. That's the main message. It's not the kind of ooh factor of metaphysics. It's what is the effect that's achieved by the metaphysics. Metaphysics just happens to be the mechanism or the modality. And then, spirit mediumship, channeling people's loved ones, went into, all of a sudden we were dealing with spirit guides, and people would say, oh, this was my childhood pretend friend. And, I met this person in a meditation, but I've never met them here. And these were the guides coming in saying, okay, you have some healing ability and you need to get in alignment with your soul purpose, much like I had to navigate leaving behind the nonprofit sector, running nonprofits and grant writing and fundraising. These folks were kind of getting the same message. And there was kind of a whole series of ways in which guides, I started to notice a pattern. They would bring their mindfulness and their self-awareness up. They would get their heart center open, like some really fundamental foundational aspects to being able to navigate a metaphysical awakening were happening. And then it went into galactics. I like to think of that as like the big brother, big sister program of the Arcturians. Reached out to me in 2016. I'd never heard that word. I kept hearing it in my mind. I looked it up. I was like, oh, wow. There are groups that have been gathering and, connecting to this group for a long time. And then by about in 2017, 18, 19, I was running a bunch of multidimensional field missions around the planet in conjunction with all of that. And then COVID, I ran something called Earth Recovery Team, and then was relocated to North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains, not far from Mount Mitchell, and told to just kind of let go of everything. And in that process, I released all these old ways of doing things and reconnected with my source self. And then about a year later, they were like, okay, now we need you back out. And I won't lie, part of me was like, but it's so nice on the side of the mountain. Can I just stay here? um, it's good though, because isolation is not great in long periods of time. And so then I was relocated to where I am in Oklahoma right now, again, doing a lot of grid work, and bringing kind of another octave of multidimensional self technology and activations out into the world to help people shift consciousness and shift into, you could call it unity consciousness, but I don't know. I just like to think of it as like a better world with much less conflict. And like what's humanity really capable of if we are not, spending so much time in conflict and, using resources, our main resources, our own energy for old kind of distortional adaptations and patterns. So that's where you find me today.
Right. And through your process and transition, I mean, the way that you share that with us, it sounds like such a breeze, but I know that it was not. So share with us how you were able to navigate through shifting your paradigms from what was real, because I'm sure that you even got to a point you were like, okay, is this even real?
Oh yeah.
And how did you navigate through that?
Yeah, well, I was a full-blown skeptic, so the irony is not lost on me. I'm sure it's not lost on anybody. So there's some real humor there. And so I had to go up against my inner skeptic countless times. Believe me, I tried to ignore it in the beginning, but really the hallmark is there's this internal pressure that starts to build, your greater knowing starts to kick in, and it's just like good luck trying to maintain the old life. It just doesn't fit. So while on the outside, it may seem like what a lovely life, on the inside, it wasn't in alignment with what my soul had planned to do here. So that's where the dissonance comes in. And that's where most people, obviously I work with, or they all experience that same thing. Now, the other piece to it is, I just knew that I didn't want to face another life review where I said, wow, I just didn't do it. I must have enough of that experience that I knew, like, nope, I'm not wrapping up this lifetime and having that conversation again of how I went into resistance and didn't do what I set out to do. Kind of like here, in our human experience, if we have certain intentions and wishes and desires and goals and we don't really go for them, we really let ourselves down, and we feel that there's like a level of self-betrayal. So that when that kind of becomes louder than the resistance, that's when a lot is able to go. But sure, I had to navigate boundaries, fear of being judged, and all of that. But this is what we're doing here. We're growing as souls, forging in these in these fires of density. I call it the spiritual gym, lifting heavy weights. So fortunately, I was able to draw on a lot of that soul experience. And then I would say the final piece of that, to the answer to your question, would be with what I'm in right now. What you find me in is I've been joking that I've been deconstructing down to the studs, and really just lately it's gone down to like taking out the old foundation completely, not just down to the foundation, but like taking out everything and realizing that so much of what we took on as humans is thousands of years of ancestral adaptive responses to trauma, uh, really, which is wounded motivation. And that now our souls are saying, okay, that phase is done. You're going to begin to really bring all your shadow out of your blind spot and begin to come into greater balance and harmony. So that can be a bit of a balancing act for the ego that developed its identity construct in this wounded motivation, because it developed all this adaptive response, to cope with trauma. For example, I'll just use mine to take this out of, abstract. Many of us have hyper independence as a distortion, overachieving as a distortion. This is born out of an adaptive response that we didn't get our needs met as children. So we came to the conclusion we were going to have to do this all on our own. We set all this up before we came here in our pre-birth planning, spent decades living it out. And now we're going, okay, time to change this, get the template into much greater harmony and balance. And then we can expand that. So just like wealth is an amplifier, and if you've got a lot of funky stuff going, it's going to get even funkier the more wealth, money you have. Same goes for frequency and energy. It will amplify what's there. So it's really important to do this cleanup and this healing work.
Right. And what can you share with people who might have a hard time trusting their inner guidance or spirit guides? Because
Yeah.
I can understand how that pressure can build within. If we're not, or I can speak for myself now, is that if I don't go in somewhere to an ancient sacred site and do a channeled message, then that pressure just keeps building until I do it. And then when I do it, I just feel so relieved.
Yeah.
And so from experience, how can you share with people what they can do to trust their inner guidance and that direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I'll just use the countless spirit guides that would answer that question for their people by guiding them to set up signs and synchronicities that they selected. Like, all right, Joe, if you're real, send me a yellow balloon 3 times today. Let's see what you got. And then it happens. And then they go, oh my gosh, right? Like, I'm playing this game right now across my socials with a red balloon. This means your spirit guide wants to get in touch with you. And people are writing in to report all the fun and fantastic ways this is happening and showing up. And so it's like, yeah, we don't carve out too much time. So this would be the second part answer to your question, is to quiet down all the chatter and tune in and feel. Why? Because many of us were conditioned to deny, minimize, ignore our own emotions beginning when we're really little. And so we kind of need, it's not an outright crisis, a bit of a 2x4 to get our attention. And spirit guides are often joking like, hey, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. It's up to you. And so I'm a big fan, having done it the hard way at different points in life, to just lean in and trust that. And I will say anything can be denied, right? I had somebody who selected the white feather, and when I asked if, hey, did your sign show up? They said no. And they said, but there are these white feathers all over my house. And so we can be in complete cognitive dissonance too. So, that the answer is it's not right or wrong. If you don't want to trust that, you can stay in that experience, and that is a valid experience, and all that is, there's no judgment, no pressure around that. It's usually, though, what I find is people manufacture a crisis to be able to give themselves permission to once and for all, like, surrender and allow and not be in so much resistance. But the resistance stems from adaptive responses and trying to keep ourselves psychically safe, especially in the context of a Cartesian materialist worldview that told us none of that is real. Fortunately, I think the psychedelic revolution is helping. A lot of people are having experiences. I am not drawn to that world because obviously I already live there, but I can tell it's opening a lot of doors in the intellectual, cerebral, cultural space that otherwise I think would not be open.
Definitely. And I can understand the spiritual 2x4, because I was a person that was ignoring the signs. And for me, I had different people in my life telling me you should be a hypnotherapist, because at the time I was a massage therapist and working in film, and I was completely miserable, and I was looking for something else, but nothing just caught my attention. But what was interesting is that these people didn't know each other, and they kept telling me this. And so for me, I told every single one of those persons, I said, I don't believe in hypnosis. I don't think I would do that. Well, I ended up getting in a car accident and T-boned, and then I became permanently disabled from the waist down. And so my whole life literally stopped in its tracks. And for 3 years, it got worse and worse and worse until I surrendered. And then I found this amazing hypnosis technique so that I could learn about why my situation happened.
Yeah.
And my spirit guides told me, well, you weren't supposed to be a massage therapist. You were supposed to be a hypnotherapist. And this is what we did to get your attention and back on track. So
Yep.
thankfully, once I heard that, my body healed itself.
I was
And
going to ask. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm completely healed now. I have no disability issues. I no longer have to use
Amazing.
handicap placards. I can walk fine. And
Right.
so it was literally, it was probably a spiritual 4x4 at that point because like
Right. That's a pretty big one. That's a big one. Yep.
it really
Yep.
was. My whole life shifted and changed. But once I realized that I had to get on my track, then everything else around me fell into place. And
Right.
so that's
Right.
what's really important for also people to know is that if if things in your life are just going against the grain, like that's when you know that it's something unnatural. You're in an unnatural path.
We're out of balance. We're out of balance. Yeah. I'm in one of those right now where my soul is realigning me out of over like independent solo mode. I've lived almost exclusively alone in almost hermit mode for the last few years. And it's like, okay, we're done. This is not how we're going to live anymore. So we're redirecting you. And I'm like, yep, sounds good to me because I've had enough of this, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
let's hear more about your journey through the light grids and what you're doing across the world for the
Also, you know, I have to preface this by saying I think maybe people have surmised it by now, but I didn't seek any of this. Quite the opposite. I was very I look back now, it's like ooh, so humbling. I was so patronizing and so condescending about anything metaphysical. The irony, it's so good. So I didn't go seeking it and it kept seeking me. And let's fast forward to 16, 17. I had interdimensional visitors approach me in 2012 and really start trying to wake me up and say, you have important tasks ahead of you. You will feel very unfulfilled in life if you don't move into this, you know, path. And I remember feeling kind of like, well, that's great, but what the hell are you talking about? You know, and I wouldn't get much more information, right? A lot of this we have to be initiated into the unknown and the uncertain, which our modern brains do not like. Like, tell me what's coming. I need the plan. I need to know, right? I need guarantees. Yeah, good luck with that. So I kind of like joke that I've just been stumbling and bumbling my way through at the human level. The greater knowing level, of course, is, you know, obviously up and running, and kind of what you've experienced that you mentioned, that pressure, that urgent, the feeling of almost urgency. Like when I'm in my daughter, my 17-year-old daughter knows it well. We call it mission mode. It's like, oh, mom's in mission mode. Like we got to go now, right? There's like, we're in the pocket, get it done. And that can involve, you know, driving down the road to a portal to do work, run lines, do earthbound clearings. And just this morning remotely, I was clearing stuff in Michigan that had come in and not even in this dimension, but beyond. And sometimes it involves getting on a plane with 2 days notice, sometimes 2 weeks notice, flying halfway around the world. Like I get sent to France a lot, to Egypt once in a while, and then a lot of remote work. And so the idea is, if I can just bring this down just to like real basic terms, if you go to increase voltage and you plug in an appliance that can only handle lower voltage, you're going to fry that appliance. So right now we're going through an ascension period where we're raising the frequency of the entire planet. And there's a much bigger story here about this corner of living creation, but we'll just focus on Earth for now. And in order for all life to sustain the increase in frequency, repairs have to be made, and certain restoration projects and clearings and upgrades to the grid itself, to different complexes. So that's what I'm going around doing. It's almost like, you know, let's just get this up to spec so it can handle the incoming frequency that we're seeing here in the month of May of 2024. I work a lot with interdimensional, so many different beings, the little people, the Sasquatch people, you can imagine all the different variety there. And it's kind of refreshing because unlike much of humanity, they know who I am, they know what I'm here to do, and they are very appreciative when I work on the systems that they also are using to be able to move. The idea is that we're able to ascend with the body, not just leave the body. I don't know what that length of time will it be in our lifetime. I'm not really sure. I think some of that is up to us to answer those questions, for ourselves. And how far can you take your enlightenment journey? I think the answer is pretty far. And so the final thing I'll say about that is I didn't understand any of this. I just followed the impulses, was traveling the planet. And then things got, my life can be pretty weird, right? But they got extra weird in 2021. I had full-blown spaceships coming, US military helicopters, like the works. And I demanded, in the context of this next level intrigue, because what I realized was I was negotiating treaties and taking down timelines and all this stuff. And I'm like, I need more information. Like, now you need to tell me what I'm involved in. And a bunch of material showed up, and it gave me the much bigger picture of being what would be an indigo one. So indigo twos are the common type of healers on the planet. Indigo one is like, doing the big grid structures and beyond. So I work beyond the planet as well. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but the idea is it's a big project. The other piece to that that's a little bit of a specialty is the guidance counselor in high school never talked to me about this. I used to joke I'm the exorcist. So it's beings that have gotten into a really extreme experience of separation from source, themselves as source consciousness, and they're playing some pretty malevolent games. And those type of things is I help bring those home. So that's kind of an interesting part of the job too.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, it's not limited to Earth.
No.
What you're doing is beyond. It's literally multidimensional, and it's so expansive and beyond what my human brain can imagine, and I can only put it into words to help other people understand, but you are affecting galaxies. You're affecting solar systems, blueprints beyond
Right.
even our beginning. And so the root work, the blueprint, the divine work that you're doing is so sacred and special and important. I can understand why they put you in a little quiet hermit mode for a few years, because the moment that we're about to step into, or that we already have stepped into, it's just so much more cleanup that we're all going to have to step in and work with. And so you're doing work for the planet, you're doing work for other light workers, star seeds, healers, people who are guiding. And that to me is so special. Me being a person who is also considered a healer, it's really helpful for me to have you stationed in your work and to follow through your work. And so I want to thank you for everything that you do, because it really does make a big difference. And I did a online meditation of yours yesterday, and it cleared so well that it just brightened my whole day. So awesome. I just want to share, we don't have to do it now, but before we end the interview today, we'll share how everyone can find you. And
and we'll do some shifting for people. That's really what I'm on the planet for. And I could talk about this for 6 hours straight, but I'm a big fan of taking this out of the cerebral into the experiential. That's what this is really about. So maybe I'll preface what we are about to do, because I can feel it starting to come in, with a little background on what we as souls took on when we took on the human form. So you've got two parents, and then you've got huge branches of family trees, and thousands of years of a lot of, there was a lot of joy, but there was a lot of difficulty, challenges, and trauma, much of which the consciousness was not present to do any healing. There was not a self-awareness to do the healing. So I've been joking lately that as first generation, most of us healers, in what I've been told is the beginning of a healing renaissance, are like stepping off a high-speed train and saying, stop. It's like, whoa, there's a lot of momentum. And the animal body, the physical body, carries all of that. So it's kind of helpful. I've noticed working with my clients, what's been brought through to them is your human form is kind of like the animal body has its own consciousness. It's trying to keep itself alive. It's got a lot of fear. it's got all this ancestral stuff in it, and it just needs to be reassured and spoken to by the soul level consciousness. So if we can get these working in harmony, you're going to be able to navigate this reality a lot better. And a lot of star seeds, I understand it. I had this mentality for a while, or like, ugh, it's Mitsu. What is this? Like, I have to schlep this around. Well, remember, your body's hearing everything that you're saying. It doesn't really like that. So the best thing you could do is really love the body, and just take a moment to consider everything that your parents, your grandparents, their parents before them, all of this stuff that came down the line. Now it's ours to alchemize. And so shifting out of old patterns is really saying, okay, all of the dysfunctional adaptive behaviors to deal with all of this, we can start to shift this. And to your point, that then we shift the template that souls coming in then can take advantage of. And I can hear them when we've made significant changes, because they're super excited, because it's like, oh, I don't have to just take what's on the lot. Like, I get the upgrade, I get like the new model, right? Like, much easier when you don't have to, clear all this out of the way, and you can kind of just hit the ground running. And so I think many people are aware that we've got some really high level consciousness kids on the planet now, right, coming in, and they've been waiting to be able to make use of, call it the new prototype, right? So that's the preface for, if it's okay, we'll go into a guided space.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
All right, so what would be beneficial is for everyone to close your eyes and place a hand on your heart, gently press, which releases oxytocin and helps you come back fully into your body. Yeah, so just there we go. It's very common as an adaptive behavior to dissociate, get out of the body a little bit, like, woo, it's rough in there, I don't want to stay in there. But we really want to come all the way back in. So bring your focus now down to your heart, out of your mind, and let go of all thinking. And connect into the phrase that's coming in is the heart of your soul. We're really going to be linking people back up with their soul consciousness today. So linking in with the heart of your soul and letting yourself feel all that love. And I'm just helping to clear out some clutter. And as you link in with the heart of your soul, go ahead and see a soft pink light in the center of your chest. And using your heart and your intention, expand that soft pink orb of light in all directions until it's about the size of a volleyball. This alone is going to clear out a lot for people. Again, I'm just assisting with clearing. Yeah, there we go. And then using your heart and your intention, connect into the power of your soul. And beyond that, connect into the power of your oversoul. And now, using your intention, expand the heart center of the soft pink light out to the size of your body. And I'm being shown that a lot of kind of what feel like distortions in the auric field are being healed right now by the light of your own heart of your soul. And then use your heart and your intention to amplify that. Go to 500% effort and amplify. Yeah, there we go. For many, the back of the heart center opened and the defended heart dropped down so that you're not walking around trying to protect yourself from the world. You're setting up an internal environment which can alchemize and heal. Healing internally first, and then anything that comes your way can be healed. Other people's projections, and thought forms running wild in the astral. This is a beautiful alchemizing buffer that you've created for yourself. And even more is being lifted now from the high heart, throat, the back of the neck. I can feel a lot being cleared. And I'm being shown that we're going to stay in the center of the chest, that this is where they really want most people being present and opening everything back up. We can be so quick to try to go into the upper energy centers, but they're saying we really want to stay here with the heart of the soul. Okay, and then your own soul's wisdom is beginning to come in. Much more present in your awareness now, and it'll be in your heart. So your heart knowing has just amplified. Trust your heart more than ever. And the solar plexus clearing just started, so that's clearing out just a lot of old static noise blocks. And it just opened more of the throat center and high heart. And just take a moment to notice how quiet it got in your own mind. And feel how at peace and calm you feel. This is your birthright. Come back to this meditation daily for 14 days, and you will set a completely new normal for how you run your human vehicle. And with that, I'm being told that we are complete. That feels really nice. How do you feel?
I'm feeling wonderful, thank you. I feel like I'm ready for a nap.
Yeah.
And I could feel the reprogramming happening as you're going through the meditation. So other people might feel that too, coming home. And when you're replugging back into the soul, it's interesting because we don't realize, I mean, we realize we're here awake and aware, but we don't realize how much soul retrieval work we really need to do sometimes. And so for me, it was like plugging back in a few more pieces that were missing. So it was very nice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it really feels like a nice, just inner healing sanctuary. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
And I can edit and clip that meditation so it's easier to access for everyone.
Perfect. Yeah.
Definitely. Perfect. Thank you for doing that and sharing.
Of course.
And share with us how you feel when you perceive that information that comes through.
Yeah, so the early days of me learning how to yield to my greater self were pretty funny. It was kind of this whole negotiation, and it was, we're just not used to operating like that. And so I just pretty quickly move kind of like back, my human mind moves back in my consciousness, and I allow, the voice and everything to be used so that it's like, what's next, what's next, what's next. But the human mind is watching, observing in real time. I might get, 2 seconds advance notice what's coming before you hear it spoken, but not much more than that. And so I get to be in discovery right alongside everybody else about, oh, and then I have my own inner dialogue of like, oh, wow, you can do that. Oh, heart of the soul. I've never heard of it, but that makes so much sense. And, like, there's this, it's not coming from the local data bank, if you will. And everyone is a multidimensional being with these amazing structures. So we went to the level of the oversoul today. I thought that was interesting. And others have gone to monadic self beyond all the way, back in to your source self. And this is a kind of way for you to pull from your own data banks of your multidimensional self in ways that, well, frankly, it just revolutionizes what it means to be human. So we're so conditioned to look for information outside of ourselves. And for years, I've just been saying, be your own guru. You can source incredible information and then form reality differently from within. So we can get into inner tech transfer if you want, can geek out on that. But this experience we just went through is a really beautiful example. Like as soon as the link up with the soul came in, I just felt all of this information come flooding through, and people will be able to feel that what I'm being told now is in an undeniable way. Before it's like we can kind of get into like, nah, I don't know about that, but like your mind might spin that tail still, but your heart knowing will feel it and go, no, that's my knowing, and I just know, right?
Right. And trusting, being able to trust and discern, mainly trust and allow.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've been so conditioned to trust outside authority figures that we gave our inner authority away. Once we reclaim that, we don't really have to choose to trust unless we're coming up against another internalized program, like, then it's like, oh, we're back to basics.
Well, that makes sense. That completely makes sense. We're replugging and rewiring,
Yeah.
programming. I love that. And let's talk more about your books and things that services or websites
Sure. Yeah.
we can.
Yeah. So I was telling you before we started that I was told write a book, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then the very next day, of course, somebody hits me up and says, have you thought about writing a book? And here's a whole way to do it. And I'm like, okay. So that was 2022, 3. And then Love is the Foundation, which is behind me there. You can find it for 99 cents on Amazon. It's basically a compilation of all the messages I noticed spirit guides were delivering to their charges, and like kind of in the order that they were delivering them. And so it basically provided the curriculum for my Awakening Foundation 6-month course. And then I was told, like, bring it out to more people through this book. I wrote it very tongue-in-cheek. It's very like, kind of fun and a little bit silly, because levity is important, in my opinion. We can take the spiritual journey way too seriously, right?
Yeah.
So keep it light, keep it fun. And yeah, it challenges people just to question their assumptions about what they can and cannot do. It's kind of that level. And it can seem like a basic book, and it is in some ways, but yet every level that we unlock, and it's a spiral that we're on, I find we have to return to those basics every time. Just like we were saying, it's like, okay, return to the breath, because this is challenging me. My animal body's freaking out. I'm going into fight or flight. My nervous system isn't regulated. So one of the series meditations recently, I think it was the Sunday one that you attended, was being breathed. And I loved that introduction of a technique, because I was like, wow, to allow ourselves to be breathed, what a concept, talk about taking all the efforting out. And then the idea is you have a new level of awareness. You're questioning all the things that you say you can and can't do. And then you could begin to make a new free will choice. And your story is an amazing illustration of, when we have these things of like the resistance, I can't, and all of it hidden in the shadow, boy, that can make life difficult for what we came to do here. Now, I feel like it's important to say some people are, although I don't think they're listening to this, but some people are here just for an experience of a density, not necessarily called into the healing arts. That is totally valid, right? But I think for the majority of people coming anywhere near a podcast like this, they know. But listen, you probably don't identify as a healer. I never did. In some ways, I still don't, because we got trained like, oh, that stuff's woo-woo and the pejorative, and you have to look like this. I think it's time for us to really reinvent the idea of what a healer is, because we need healers that can be trusted by all walks of life, all demographics. Otherwise, the healing can't get where it's needed. So, you may be a gun-toting cowboy who is a metaphysician, and the people in that community will trust you because you look like them, you sound like them. It's not all white robes and a lot of the stuff we have associated with the metaphysical. I mean, obviously, I took on an incredibly cerebral embodiment so that highly educated, highly intellectual people navigating their awakening can go, okay, she's grounded. She's not asking me to chant. She's not, doing any psychedelics. Okay, I think I can do this, right?
Yeah, and you're completely right. And it's all about the introduction with individuals. And with me, even though I knew that I had to be a hypnotherapist, I knew I had to drop this massage therapy role, but I also knew that the massage therapy role would help people. It's almost that gateway bridge to understand, oh, I know massage therapy and I can kind of understand Reiki, so maybe I can kind of understand this quantum hypnosis, you know?
Right.
So it's those steps, you're
Yeah.
right, that
Yeah.
that
Absolutely. Therapist has been in the identity construct. You're just evolving it a little bit, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
working out different kinks on different dimensional levels.
Definitely. And there are people in my life that I've reached, but I feel like I have and they may have never been able to been reached if it wasn't for me
Exactly.
because of my energy or vibrance at that time,
Yes.
and I
That's
didn't
it.
understand it, but I look back now and I see people in my life that I helped and it meant so much to them, but it meant almost nothing to me. And so we really have to embrace those moments as well.
I listen to an NDE, a near-death experience testimonial on YouTube pretty much every day. And a lot of them will tell you when they cross over and they have their life review and they experience before they are sent back, usually, like, you're not done, back in there. Uh, the the impact of a smile, a, an eye glance exchange, a kind word, they were blown away at the impact it had on a life. So we sometimes have no idea how we are impacting
Yeah.
the world. Yeah.
And thank you for saying that because those are the messages that come through me when I deliver to people. It's like say hi to one person today. It's like actually don't say hi to one person, make it 10, and make that communication or eye contact or open the door. Because we are in a phase transition where even though we may have done the shadow work, there's still shadow work that needs to be done through other people. And it really is a blessing and honor to help other people through that because I know how difficult it can be to
Oh,
just live in the moment.
yeah. Yeah. The shadow work, I would say it's a lifestyle. It's like a gain fluency in shadow work because we'll all be doing it for the rest of our lives. Like there's just, I had a client once who's like, peel the onion. Don't you mean the whole bag of onions? I was like, yeah, well said. Like it just keeps going and we keep surfacing, again, first generation, we're really taking this on for the first time in earnest, right? We're not doing bypasses to it. And there's other reasons why it's very conducive right now to be able to do it. We have a lot of support for many different reasons. And so, yeah, it's embrace shadow work as a lifestyle and you will thank yourself because we will bring ourselves into much greater balance and harmony as a result. And when I say that, like, I don't know, I made a video earlier today and the analogy I was given is, you know, if you've got a shopping cart with a wobbly wheel, everybody knows how hard that is to push. You get the wheel set right, and then everything goes. And so it's kind of the same for us. Like we can kind of keep limping along with these adaptive structures and behaviors and family line and ancestral line patterns, so we can kind of get all this healed and cleaned up. And then, wow, what are we really capable of? So as I'm checking back into why the healing that was chosen today to come through, it makes a lot of sense because it's almost like a healing balm direct from your soul to work on all the different ways in which, your bioenergy field is just not being able to function well for so many different reasons that what I'm being told now is you don't have to get in there with tweezers and do micro managing of it. It's like a wholesale kind of adaptive approach that will help across a wide spectrum. So I'll be really curious as people use this for the 2 weeks that was recommended, what they're noticing as a result, you know. And I think what I'm being told now is it's way more than just psycho-spiritual or emotional healing. This goes into bio and physical. So that will be interesting to hear as well. That we, by the time it gets to the physical level, whatever that origination point or that trauma was, it has to be pretty extreme for it to be manifesting in the physical. So the reverse engineering of that and healing is really powerful. Getting to the root, I guess, is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Soul led. Yeah.
Yes.
So really what we're doing right now is tinkering new technology.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need a med bed.
Right.
You really don't.
We need.
You really
Yep.
don't.
You got it. We are
Like your
so powerful. It's amazing.
consciousness, I think surrendering is super important. And also for anybody who might be listening, I think I may have had this problem going through my awakening and shadow work, is that you have to let go to the judge. You have to let go of the judgment and ego, because you can't just say, oh, well, what's wrong with me? We're not here to pick out what's wrong with you or
Right, right.
fingers, but we're really here as a collective to evolve as one.
Yeah.
Just like you mentioned, the shopping cart with the wobbly wheel. If there's 4 people in a group and one person is off, then we all need to take that responsibility to
Mhm.
assist that other person, to get them back on track with that stability. And that's
Yeah, especially, if they're taking that responsibility first and foremost, right? Because I like to joke, and I fell into it for many years until I realized, whoa, the rescue trap that we can fall into of like overextending. So just that caveat. But there was something else that wanted to come in while you were visiting about that, oh, the shame and judgment. So that's really common for us to go to, because the judgment and the ego, the wounded ego, is an adaptive response to trauma. So we're kind of stuck in that pattern, and yeah, it can feel defensive or want to deflect. And then once you start realizing the benefits of shadow work and bringing what's been in your blind spot out and healing that, the liberation you feel, the freedom from trying to hide because you're afraid of feeling shame and judgment, it makes it totally worth it. So I would say get through the initial resistance. Kind of like if you haven't worked out in a long time and you go to start working out again, like, ooh, it could be a little bit of a slog that first few weeks. And then, the strength builds in it, and away you go. This work is very similar. And then it's like, ooh, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what showed up this morning. And I had no idea I was sitting on that, and this made its way out. So, I'm glad you spoke to that, because it's so common for us to go right to feeling like a level of shame, and just to normalize that, like you'd expect to feel shame. Your ancestors sat on thousands of years of it and haven't unpacked it. Of course, that's going to be one of the first things that comes out. So take it as a good sign, not
Yeah.
like I shouldn't feel this.
Yeah, that means you're on the right track,
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
right.
because without that resistance, there's so much that we can do, but if we don't go through that resistance, then we're not going to grow.
Right. Absolutely. It's just a self-protection mechanism, but the protection becomes the jail. It becomes the trap, the prison. So then we get stuck in there. So that's the idea, is like, oh, I don't want to be imprisoned by my own judgment, my own fear of shame, all of that.
Right, right. So I would like to encourage everyone to speak up more about their truths and what's bothering them. Because I
Yeah.
think the more we hold that in, the more we're just going to keep caging ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. The masks and everyone feeling like they have to posture. Yeah, I know. I mean, gosh, my own inner guidance has me talking very vulnerably on my own YouTube channel now. Like, okay, we're going to this level. Yeah, because it's time. It's time to evolve the conversation and get past, like, just kind of our own BS. No judgment, but just like, ooh, let's call BS and break free out of it.
Definitely, definitely. And so when someone goes through these meditations, what can they start to expect in time? Like this meditation we did today,
Mhm.
say we do that for the next 14 days, what can someone expect if they might not be used to the report?
Yeah, this one felt really gentle. Like it's not going to blow you out of your socks, which is good, because some of these are like, ooh, you end up having to. You may have to take a nap and integrate. Sometimes sleep is the best thing to kind of reset the whole system, the whole nervous system. Um, but what I'm being shown is that there will be this kind of, let's say 30 days out, and all of a sudden you recognize, I just have so much clarity about things I just didn't have clarity about, because this greater part of you has reclaimed more of your conscious awareness and your identity construct, and you're not running things off of old patterns in the same way. So there will be inner healing, and then a new level of clarity and alignment and heart alignment, right? Heart truth. uh, of who you've always been, but maybe you felt like you had to hide parts of that, or some parts of you were not welcome. And so they got pushed away and all of that. It would be, and then, that's what I'm being shown. And then I'm just curious what we'll see and what the feedback will be.
Yeah.
Again, I'm being pointed in, we're here. We get to be the innovators and the tinkers when it comes to multidimensional technology.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yes, because I know I've healed myself from being permanently disabled. And the neurologist specialists said there was nothing they can do for me and that I would live my life permanently disabled. They gave me handicap placards and told me to call them if I became incontinent. It's like, how does, and at the time I was 29, and so it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, I knew within my sense of being in my inner contract that was like, that did not make sense. There's no way I'm going to live the rest of my life in this situation.
It's a temporary realignment situation.
Yeah, if you would have said that, I mean,
I
but
think a lot of us
kinda-
live through those temporary alignment situations that can be pretty dramatic, right? And intense, but yet temporary. Kind of like death, the NDE. People literally, the physical body dies, like
oh my gosh, thank
temporary
you. Yes.
realignment, right? Temporary
Yeah,
realignment, like, and then they get, a lot of them will report like, oh, I got shown what I selected and why, and oh, okay, got it. Yeah, let's
yeah,
go get
yeah.
this done.
That's how it was for me in the hypnosis, because I was able to see my contract and why I was here, what my mission was, what I was going to be doing, the books I was going to write, where I was going to travel. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I understand why that happened. I understand why I ignored it. Now I
Right.
understand why I have to listen. So and then from there, it was just trusting. So I think that might help someone do that.
Yeah, that's
Just
beautiful
trusting the process.
to get a bit of a roadmap for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. 'Cause I used to be stuck in bed and I couldn't work. So
Right. That's beautiful. Your story is amazing. And I know it's good. It's already, they're telling me it's already been a catalyst and
yeah.
will continue to be one, you know. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you gave the prime example of like we could do the easy way or the hard way. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I'll take the 4x4.
Right, right. I know. I had some hospitalizations in there and like, whoa, okay.
Right. But without that, we wouldn't have woken up when we
Yeah,
needed
yeah.
to.
That's it. Yeah. If my father hadn't left when he did, there's just no way. It's just no,
Yeah.
you know.
It's our own little alarm clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, somebody I was just talking to just was saying that their higher self basically put them on alert that they're about to bring it. I went, hey, you got the heads up, that's huge. So
Yeah. Yeah. Be thankful for that uh guidance in advance. I think that is such a huge blessing
Mhm, mhm.
to and a muscle to exercise if people aren't uh utilizing that
Yeah.
connection with their higher self.
Yeah, I think it will become much easier. I don't know if you've noticed a change, but as we continue moving through these frequencies, more and more people are shifting and just being able to feel other people's emotions is a good example of this. Like all of a sudden they're having more empathy because they can literally feel what, healers and intuitives have had just kind of seen as a special gift. It's not. It's just a result of us unblocking ourselves. And I was just also talking to a client this morning because she was noticing toddlers on the side of the road like had a reaction to her. I said, yeah, because they can still see you. I had the same experience recently at a coffee shop. The baby, maybe 10 months old, having one of these when I walk by. But the siblings, 8, 9, 10 years old, like already it's shut down. What would it be like if we never shut it down? And that happens for so many different reasons. Like we get told when we're little that, what we see multidimensionally isn't real. You're just making that up, giving the power away, all that stuff. So that's what I'm really curious to see is, the human race evolves and we hold much more of our power intact. Like, wow, what are we capable of? You know, um, I'm really optimistic. Yeah, I think it will continue to be a bit bumpy And, you know, we say hard way, easy way, but yet, you know, what you went through served you and serves you very powerfully as being able to be a catalyst for others and your own undeniable experience. So it's not right or wrong. It's just degrees of intensity and then being able to speak to it from such a different level. You know, I think that we're all going to have to live through some challenges that, though, direct inform us in realignment. But overall, because people often ask me that, are you optimistic? I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely, because we're co-creators. So increase your light quotient, increase your joy quotient, increase your love quotient, and co-create the reality you want to live in. And expect some tests and some things. You know, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. I'll be the first to say that. And yet, can you still keep a sense of humor? Can you make the lemonade from the lemons and all that good stuff? You know, when I went through some really hard tests last year that I knew were coming, because my dad said from the other side, he said, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I was like, well, thanks for the heads up. He would just show up in my dreams and just be like, joy. I'd be like, right, thanks. You know, touchstone, right? Because we do have a free will choice about what we choose to think and feel. I mean, we have the fleeting experiences of feelings, but in my experience, chronic self-victimization or self-pity is like one of the worst black holes and back eddies we can get into. And it really just sucks our power. So that's the one I always caution people about, that. And polarity dramas, getting caught up in fighting and conflict, because that's a huge diversion tactic from having us go vertical and reconstituting our greater consciousness and then transcending a lot of the BS. Yeah.
Yes. Amen. Yeah, I understand that. I've had to put certain boundaries up with even through shadow work, not just with myself, because you mentioned how we can almost beat ourselves up. Like, we're self-sabotaging sometimes when we get caught up in this cycle of darkness or negativity or ego or judgment, etc. I mean, I still have troubling days, that's just the human, that's just the human animal mind and sense of self. But as we can integrate our spiritual self, then we can step in and say, okay, I recognize this is happening, and I recognize why this is happening or where it came from. And then we can make a choice to shift and change that.
That's it. And love it. And love it. To your point about not judging, it's like, oh, I've got a self-sabotaging pattern that came down one of the lines. Big surprise, right? Because we protect ourselves from disappointment by just sabotaging, and then we're guaranteed the result. And, I mean, all these adaptive behaviors we develop. And what I found is if you just bring it in close and love it and love it and love it some more, at some point it just transmutes, So it's not trying to get away from it or push it away or it's bad. It's like, oh, what do we have here? Like some sabotage. Look at you. Come here.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah, I feel that way too. I always try to give love to it. I give love, I give gratitude and thanks for whatever it has served and the moment that it served, because I also understand that things that we have as programs can come in this lifetime or another lifetime. So even though we might not recognize where it came from, it could have been lifetimes, we still have to love and appreciate it, because at one point or another, it probably did serve us good in protecting us in that time.
Yeah.
But as we carry things through our blueprints and DNA from time to time, as we live, we almost forget these memories. It's like in this life, we have short-term memory loss, or we just choose to remember the things that we want to choose or how we want to remember them.
Right.
So I think a lot of it is coming down just to love and forgiveness and thanks and gratitude, and then replacing it with the joy and the love and the happiness. And I think that is the most powerful thing we can do in the moment for ourselves and one another.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a big spiritual workout. That's what
it is.
Some mornings I wake up and I really feel the density at a different level. And I'm like, oh, boy, the weights in the gym are heavy today. All right. Well, let the workout begin.
Leg day.
Right, right. I love it. Yeah.
Sure. I love that. Well, share with us how we can find your books and your website, YouTube, and any social media that you would like to share.
Yeah, you bet. The easiest way to find me is online at my website. It's multidimensional, the letter U.com. And all the information about courses, meditations, there's a lot of free content on there. I'm doing a series right now called Higher Love Alchemy that will be a playlist standalone on my website in perpetuity. I would just add the disclaimer, please don't try to do all those in one day. You probably won't be able to get off the floor, right? So start with one and work your way through, maybe maximum one a day or maybe one every other day. But yeah, that's where you can find me is, everything's up to date there as the clearinghouse.
Yes, yes. And you have your books on your website and
Yes.
you have free content, courses, private sessions as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And for some reason, I'm being called to talk about the evolutionary inner journey, which I don't normally talk about, but I'm going to honor that. This is for transformational visionaries. So if you've been a speaker, author, coach for a long time, you tend to be the more evolved person in the room and you don't necessarily have the support you need. And so this is that next level. Yeah, I can feel some pings in the field happening right now. Yeah, this is your telephone call in the matrix. So you can go to that page and if that lines up, there's info there. And then later this summer, and then kind of ongoing from there, I'm rebooting my emergence experience, which is my group coaching experience that's been offline for a while I was reformatting myself, on the side of the mountain. So yeah, it's all there. It's all there. And I put out a weekly video blog every Sunday. And so I would say join my mailing list just because then everything gets emailed. And, I think we're out of the days of censorship, hopefully. We'll see. But that way, everything is going to go direct to your inbox and we aren't relying on social platforms to moderate.
Yes, definitely sign up for the emails. And what about the YouTube channel?
Yeah, the YouTube channel is the same thing. It's youtube.com/multidimensional, the letter U, multidimensional U. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if anybody would like to contact Asia, you can reach out to her on her website directly, or you can find her email and the
Yeah,
newsletter.
the email inbox, you can reach out to my team, and they do a great job taking care of everyone. It's info@multidimensionalu.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for being with us and sharing your journey and everything that you do. And is there anything else that you would like to share with anybody before we end our session today?
Really, just what's coming through is an emphasis on to really believe in yourself as this incredible multidimensional being. We are so conditioned to put ourselves in hierarchies. If you can let all that fall away and be open to this much greater self that you are, that's what I'm being shown is that's what's really going to help the development of unity consciousness on the planet is dropping the hierarchy. So, and that goes both ways. I'm being shown like if you tend to place yourself above other people, whoops, maybe clean that up too. Right.
Right. And I know this might be a topic that I know that is out there right now, but how can we manage or go through this transition right now on a grand scale of what we're going through?
Yeah, the biggest answer that's coming in is definitely what I've been deep in for the last 2 to 3 years, which is our own shadow work. And by that, we're really meaning it's like all the parts of us that got pushed away, rejected from a young age, and maybe run in the ancestral line as a way of being, right? If you know, a certain way of being was seen as a threat to the tribe, it's like that's going to get pushed underground, right? So for many of us, that means our identities as healers and metaphysicians. It's like, whoa, keep that under wraps. We were literally taken out in other existences for it. So that the main show is here. The main show is within you. And I know it can be tempting to be out there looking at like all the stuff. And I kind of keep an eye on it, but real disclosure is here. It's all happening right here. And I think you know that from doing the incredible therapy work you do. It's like, wow, the information that is possible to come from within. That's it. And just to be loving and gentle with yourself. Remember, this is a game to reclaim all the density and transmute it back into our true state, which is unconditional love. So work in progress, right?
In progress, that's right. And if anybody is hesitant on their path, just, I mean, I would like to say this too, because you said this earlier and it reminded me of something that I felt for myself. It's like, I don't want to go back up there and do that life review and
Yeah,
say, okay, you had the chance and you knew, but why didn't you do it?
I
It's like,
know.
okay.
Like, oh, well, you know, and that I think is born out of a lot of channeling people's family members who would cross over and then be like, oh, I didn't mean it. And I was like, yeah. And I mean, great if a family member here still here is open to hearing that, but most of them aren't because it's like, that's not a thing and whatever. And so you've lost your ability to do that. And I've been joking. I think do we get extra bonus points if we do it while we're here? You know, like my mother-in-law, crossed over. I could feel she was going to, and then she did, and then she got in touch with me and she just said, I understand now in a way. And I remember being in my kitchen and just being like, oh, okay, that's nice, Carol. And she was like, no, she like grabbed me by the shoulder. She's like, I really need you to understand. I really understand now. And I was like, oh, okay, I received that. Thank you. Yeah. She like, it felt like she wanted to clean something up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've channeled other people's like, yeah, there must be like the mother-in-law template because it was a mother-in-law that came through and wanted to make sure to get a message through to her daughter-in-law that she hadn't been very nice to, you know? So yeah, it's that like, can we do it while we're here and let that be a motivator that you don't want to get to your, life review and go, huh, wow, all the fear of judgment, I let that get in the way and fear, 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 fear.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's why shadow work is so powerful is because it's healing. It's healing all that stuff that makes us feel like we have to protect ourselves. So I'm all for inner tech transfer, the multidimensional self, and I've radically evolved my own healing abilities that way. And we'll get onto those conversations, down the road. But for now, circle the wagons and yeah, go lean in here. Like what keeps your heart center, closed up? Can you just get that opened up? Just
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. And it's so freeing. So
Yeah.
highly
Yes.
recommended.
Right? I know. And it's like,
Yeah, stars. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was good to chat with you today and learn more about you. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us today on Quantum Healing Today. And so is there I think there's one more message that needs to come through. Are there any messages that you have from our interdimensional friends?
yeah. I just hear a lot of we're being cheered on big time. Like, go, really do it. Like, you can do this. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of interdimensional race relations and rebuilding friendships and alliances. And um, they're really excited for us, because they know firsthand how much fear resides in humanity because they experience it, right? Uh, so yeah, it just feels like there's just a ton of support. And so they're there to be friends. If you want to go out in the woods and, start like a gifting stump or tree or nook with, it can be the little people, it can be the Sasquatch people, the juveniles are especially playful, and start rebuilding friendships that way. It's kind of all the magic we left behind when we were kids. I played with a lot of interdimensionals when I was little and I left it behind thinking it was just fantasy. And then, all these years later, I'm like, oh, right. It's a big multidimensional ecosystem. And as we all shift, there's a lot of expansion there that I feel like as we transit during this time, in the same way that like neighbors pulling together with neighbors, let's call them dimensional neighbors pulling together, is going to be really fulfilling. And so just letting yourself be open to that magic and that friendship.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that. I felt like something else needed to come through and that was it. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our time together today.
Of course, thank you. And then again, I just wanted to thank you for everything that you do and continue to do. And maybe we can come back and chat sometime again.
Yeah, I can only imagine. We'll do round two. We'll see how all these things evolve, right? It'll be good.
Yeah, let's do it. Would love to. All the discussions. I know there's much to talk about.